I want to welcome you to the Mount Airy Art Garage. Thank you for coming. We are a nonprofit member organization. We have about 100 members, more than half of which are visual artists and performing artists and writers. And if you want any more information about MAG, we're online, and we love having new folks come. If you have work that you'd like to hang here, we also do a lot of pop-ups. Right now we have a show up at the Suzanne Roberts Theatre in conjunction with the play that's being performed there right now. How to catch creation, yes. So we also are teaching in 2 different locations now, at Emlyn School and at the Mount Airy Playground. We're doing murals with the children in the community, and we always want to have more artists involved. So please feel free to ask any questions after Larry's presentation. And without further ado, Larry is a member of our board, and he has his graphic work on display here. He has stickers, originals, a book, and t-shirts available today. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Larry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
That's very good to hear. So the first thing I'm going to do is use new technology and find out if anyone's actually watching this on a live stream. Because apparently this is what you do in 2019.
Is that right?
Or at least that's what I tell myself when we sure this thing's on mute. Great.
Those of us in the back can watch on our cell phones.
Absolutely. Hey, it's even better. So, first of all, thank you for coming. I mean, that's the first thing I have to say. Thank you for taking time out your Saturdays on a Saturday afternoon, especially a very nice one, to come out here and listen to me prattle on for about 2 hours. That's right, 2 hours about my work, my process, and all that other good stuff. So, I am on the wrong screen, because of course I am. Of course. It's the first thing that happened. Okay. See, I tested everything before you got here. So, I'm Larry West. I have a little company I call Larry West Productions, and I do illustration work, I do graphic design, I do photography, and I also do websites. I also write and play the guitar, but that's not incorporated in this presentation. So, I guess I might want to mention two things I won't really be mentioning today. I do write, but that's not part of this. This is basically all visual presentation, which is also why I'm not going to have my guitar with me and play some metal to annoy everyone around. I know, I'm sorry. There's always next time. And finally, even though I am a big politics nerd, there's basically no politics today.
Thank God. If there was such a thing.
Well, there's some, but it's not a ton. I mean, trust me, when you get to that part, you'll see what I'm talking about. So, first off, I'm going to be blunt. I'm giving you a content advisory warning. This is basically, it's trigger warnings now, it's just content advisory. So basically, following content involves the occult, sexuality, and generally unpleasant things to the majority of people I've met in my life. So, leave now if you're worried. Otherwise, don't complain to anyone about the stuff. And just remember, it only reflects my viewpoints, no one else's. I believe that's a very nice, polite thing to say. Because hey, this is just me as an artist, nothing else. Very well then! So, who is Larry West? I don't really know, and I will never really have the answer. And that's how this is going to go from here on out. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, and I'm 34. I've been working professionally since about 2004. But they would say professional is the very second you make any money off your work. So I'm going to go with 2008 or 2007 when I did my some artwork on the sidewalk on 2nd Street for First Friday. And that's all I did. I went out there, I had a bunch of friends, sold some work. It's like, oh, awesome. Apparently you can make money from this. And I was in art school. So I've been doing this for a while. Right now I'm a full-time graphic and web designer. I've been doing that since 2008. I worked at a few companies. Nothing really spectacular, but I've worked with clients including Zoetis, the city of Philadelphia. But we're talking like through my job, so again, not really me. But me personally, I've actually gotten to work with Megadeth in 2004, and I've worked with Wednesday 13, which is one of my favorite artists. I've also worked with a few other companies, including the Admiral Theatre in Chicago, Illinois, and a bunch of others. And trust me, we're going to get to that and more very, very soon. So, oh God, I didn't get there yet. This is why I put up slides, so I could understand what I was going to talk about before I got to it. So, when it comes to my work, a lot of people ask, who's your work for? Like, who are you aiming it for? And I'm going to take a line from every artist I like, which is, I'm making it for myself. If everyone else likes it, it's great. But really, at the end of the day, it's like, do I like this? Is this something that excites me? Something that makes me happy? That's all that really matters. And in times in your life, you might wind up making so much work for other people that you just need a break. And I've actually taken a break from doing client work because I said, I need to work on myself, and then I can come back. But as an artist, I think it's important to always make sure that the work you do for yourself, for your job, for your client, it has to be stuff you really believe in. Because if it's not, it's going to come out in the work itself. It's going to show. So, how did I get an interest in art? It's, so like George Carlin, do you always want to be an artist? Well, now that's me out the womb, no, but shortly afterwards, yes. And one thing that happened was, when I was a kid, I liked to draw, and I loved playing with Legos. At one point, I thought about being an architect, and a school project was find out what's involved in being an architect. And when I found how much math was involved, I said, yay, that would be great. Maybe I'll be a cartoonist instead. But I had, so this is also a very, very honest talk. And one thing is, when I was a kid, I got in a lot of trouble. I was picked on a lot, like most artists, I hope. I got picked on a lot, and I got in a few fights. And one thing that they came up with as an alternative therapy method was, okay, every time you're having a bad thought or you don't feel good about yourself, come down to the office and draw how you feel, or write how you feel. And that was a blessing and a curse at the same time. And the blessing was, now I'm not in trouble, I'm going down to the office, I'm drawing, expressing how I feel. But the double-edged sword part is, when I got older, having all that rage and anger was the thing that was filling so much of my work. And when you're not that angry anymore, that young and angry anymore, it's kind of hard to find that inspiration sometimes. And that's the catch. So it's a really good therapy method, but it's something you have to temper with other things. But I also had an interest in, that's the dark side of all of this. But the more positive stuff was, I was already drawing. I loved cartoons. I had a cousin who was a cartoonist. He worked on The Simpsons, Futurama, and a bunch of others. His name's Swin Scott III. He directed the episode where Fry's dog died. It's one of those. It's one of those. So yeah, but I was really interested in it, and I got more and more into it. And trust me, we're going to touch the inspirations, all that other good stuff. But I've always had an interest in art and creativity. I want to at least explain a little bit of where that came from before I got really deep into this. And I'll mention one more thing too. Art school. I went to art school. I had a great high school art teacher, Miss Elaine Shupak, for 3 years. And she let me go in the art room early too, just to draw, because again, the anger thing. And it was great. And I did a lot of great stuff because of it, and they let me experiment with all these techniques and materials. And when I went to college, I went to Hutchins School of Art for 4 years, where I had my 4-year AST, which is basically a bachelor's equivalent degree. I cannot stress that enough. You go to school for 4 years. And I almost dropped out my sophomore year. It was a very tense freshman year, and it's a commercial art school, so they're going, this is what you do, and this is 2002 to 2006. So they're incorporating old school techniques, like here's layout bond, and here's how you do Greek typing, with new methods like, here's Adobe Photoshop, use that. And it was great, but my sophomore year, I had burnout. A lot of people do, and I was getting ready to drop out. And my mom got really sick. I came home from school on a Friday, and she had a brain aneurysm and was in a coma a few days after that. And I thought I was just going to drop out of school at that point, and I thought, all right, I'm going to take a week off, and maybe I'll come. And after 3 days, I said, I'm coming right the hell back. Every fire in me just got relit, like there was no tomorrow. And I went right back in there, and I did my sophomore, junior, I finished out of school. And I wasn't top of the class, which I was fine with, but I worked my butt off after that. And sometimes I wonder, would I have dropped out otherwise? Would I have stayed? I don't know. I don't have that answer. All I know is I'm busting my butt whenever I get the chance, and I'm still creating. And I went to school to be an illustrator, but I also learned a ton about design. And if you ever get to go to art school, even though you may go, I want to be X, always pay attention to everything else. I was an illustration major. I said, I'm doing illustration. I understand I won't get a job as an illustrator, but I'm paying attention to all my graphic design classes and web design classes. I found all this new stuff I had never heard about before. It's like, wow, that's really neat, and I can do that and that, and always keep your options open. I would always say that. So, my career up to this point. Well, like I said, I'm working full time, but I also freelance. So let's take a look at some of these. So, 2004, the hell with it, I'll tell the story. I was being attacked in my house by my dad. My dad was never really around, and this was after my mom had a coma and everything else. So he comes over one day, and I realized I have to kick him out. It's a long story, and that part I'm not going to go into here. It's not relevant. But I thought I was being attacked, and I couldn't go to the phone. We're talking landlines in 2004 here. So I couldn't call anyone, so I went on the made-up message boards and said I'm being attacked. And then I got a couple of phone calls, and one was from the Arizona Police Department saying Mr. Dave Mustaine called to make sure I was all right. Dave Mustaine being the lead singer and guitarist of Megadeth. I can't think of enough to this day. So what happened was I did some fan art just for fun, kind of. This was actually the first thing I drew after that giant traumatic event. And it was Vic, which is their mascot, which had his mouth wired shut. I said, well, what happens if you open his mouth? Because something so big just happened that he just had to break free. So I did this for a new song coming out called Black Man of the Universe, just fan art. Dave saw it and he's like, that's awesome, I want to use it for my next tour. But not the artwork itself. And without going into the legal aspects, basically the piece wound up being inspiring the piece that was used for the tour. That's the design applied to a guitar. It's a little blurry, this is the only photo I could really find, but it's basically they took existing artwork they already had, redid it, and kind of went from there. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Oh. And later on, I went back and just made my own version, like if I got to do a 3D display, if I made floor posters, and all that good stuff. It's really fun. So that's how I got started doing like professional work at 19. So later on, I would do other stuff like I did a Bride of Frankenstein piece for fun, and the Admiral Theatre in Chicago was like, hey, we want to use that image. And I said, how about this? How about if I redraw it for you for the same price? And I worked with them for a few years after that, which was great. During Occupy, I was one of the designers on the art committee there, and I came up with a bunch of designs for posters. And one thing I came up with was this, which is listed in BuzzFeed's top 25 posters of the Occupy movement. This is a local client, Patrick with Dancing Ferret. In case you just see this, thank you. Hey. And this was a really fun piece for the 20th anniversary of his company. Oh, so we also did that. I also did Dapper Ferret illustration for him. And for a friend of mine, Josh Cohen over at Below the Scene, I did this Circle Jerks inspired cat for Paul's benefit. I just did the cat, I didn't get to do the design, but I wanted to show some illustration work that I've done throughout my career too. like Taco in a Bag is this great company in Chicago, and I did a bunch of trading cards style things for them. And on the opposite end of all of that is Mikimoto. I did a kid's coloring book for a high-end fashion jewelry company. You never know what you're going to be asked to do. Like, I'm working for Admiral Theatre, I'm working for Mikimoto. It's a great life sometimes. And this was a client I had down in Austin, Texas a few years back. She had a food truck, and she saw my artwork on Reddit, of all places. Said, hey, I want to hire you for something. So I did the logo design, illustration, branding, and a website for them. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And she wanted a Windio look, and I said, awesome, let's do that. And kind of wrap this up. 2010, and this is basically a few examples I want to talk about, which is doing stuff for fun and you never know what's going to happen. 2010, front row, Ozfest, Camden Tweeter Center. I got my camera with me. It's near the end of the night. It's been a long ass Ozfest. I am tired. Everyone else is. All of a sudden, Oz brings out this 10-year-old kid on stage with a Randy Rhoads guitar. And for anyone who knows metal and Ozzy, they know that is the Randy Rhoads pose. All the professional photographers are gone. So I go in my pocket, take out my camera, click, and I'm trying to get another shot. Crowd surfer goes over me, I can't get another one. It's over, I had the only photo. And this will end up being published in Rolling Stone magazine. Because you never know what's gonna happen. Just go, create. And on top of that, this came an FDM post from this Machine Head poster. These were just for fun, just kind of doing it because I love promoting local metal shows when they happen. I want to do more acts, but shows will happen. I got contacted by publishers to put these in books. So this one is in the art of metal, and this one is in the art of Gothic, which is pretty nice for just doing something for fun. My personal philosophy when it comes to my work, to everything I do, is will to power. Will to power was something I just discovered yesterday, so I'm not going to be that guy who explains something he barely knows. But even Friedrich Nietzsche, when he came up with it, barely explained the entire principle. But the core of it is we are all driven to do something. We're all driven to do something more with our lives and with this energy and with this short time frame we have on this planet. And for me, it's just creating and doing everything I possibly can. I don't like limiting myself to anything. I don't like limiting myself to just doing illustration or design or photographer or website or coding. I want to do as much as I can when I can. Because you never know what's going to hit. And it's too short to just focus on one thing. At least that's what I think. I love doing as much as I can. And now we come to the fun part. This is the part where I break down your will to live. And if we have time, build you back up. And if we have more time, break you back down. And then eventually, if we have a little bit of time at the very end, build you up one more time. What is art? The fundamental question. I want to start with a simple truth. One truth that I think everyone can agree with in one way or another. Something that from you to me, we should all be able to say this is the truth. No one cares about your work. This is a fundamental fact. No one cares about your work. You're in an art gallery. You're here. And within a span of a minute, you're probably seeing 50 different pieces of art. You haven't paid attention to any of them, have you? And if you have, that's great. But more importantly, you haven't paid attention to everything because no one can pay attention to everything. No one cares about your work unless you give them a reason to. And that's really the core of everything I do. I learned a lot of stuff. Like, you know, if you do marketing, you do design work, you realize people have short attention spans. There's a million things going on. You have to give them a reason to like your work, to care about your work, to want to invest even more than a second in anything. You have to work your butt off for that. There are grandmasters that have spent years and years and years on pieces, only for people to walk by for 5 seconds. There are people who have spent decades composing the perfect piece of music, only to be used as a ringtone. You just don't know. And it's important in everything you do to have a reason to do it. And I really do believe in that. Even if it's just to mess around or just pay a bill, there's got to be a reason, and you have to give people a reason to care about it. If you see any of my work, you realize pretty fast, like, yeah, this isn't just filler. This is big. This is something big going on at any given moment. And it's really hard to get off that energy all the time. And sometimes it's not necessary, and there's always balance. Like maybe there's something big, maybe there's something small. But finding that balance, it's a never-ending cycle, but it's worth it.
I like that.
I do not like being told my work is a gift from God. It's not because of my religion, it's not because of my faith, it's because it feels like, did I not work my butt off for something? The reality is, no, my work's not a gift from God. Especially if you see my work, it's not. It's the result of a ton of practice. Now, I tell everyone the same thing. I can teach anyone, I can pull someone off the street and teach them how to be a graphic designer in about a few hours, maybe a few days, or a few weeks. Anyone can be an amazing graphic designer. Only a few people can have an eye for it. And that's the trick. Now, we can argue whether or not that's the God part, or maybe it's just talent, or maybe it's just the result of even more practice. I don't really have the answer for that. But the reality is, you're going to sink a ton of work and time and effort into learning your craft and perfecting your craft. And also, for anyone who says, I can't draw, you can draw. You write. Even if it's a letter, you write. You are making marks. You're able to do something. Beyond that, it's up to you what you want to do. Do you want to be more than be able to just write a few letters? Do you want to be able to do more than stick figures? Do you want to make really amazing stick figure comic strips like other people have? It's up to you. But always realize that even though you don't feel like maybe you have the natural talent, no one has the natural talent. Maybe a few child prodigies here and there if they're lucky, but otherwise, no, they're working their butts off to get better at it. So always remember that. And also, people will classify you. When I ran for, this is a slight political thing. So when I ran for office in 2007, everyone said, it's the punk rock mayor, it's the punk rock mayor guy. And I had a choice right then and there. I said, okay, I'm 22, I'm running for mayor of Philadelphia. Do I lean into the fact that everyone says I'm punk rock, or do I go, no, I'm super serious about this, I'm a respectable candidate, please respect me. And one thing in hindsight is I did not realize there was a middle ground where you can actually be both. And that's the thing about labels. People label things. People label everything. It's what we do. The human mind has to incorporate a million things at any given time. We have to label them or group them together so we can actually understand them more. And there's nothing wrong with that by default. It's how we do handle that and how we treat people because of those labels. And a lot of times, as an artist, people go, oh, well, are you going to work in a comic book? And I always have to stop myself from wanting to yell at them. It's an understandable fact because my work has comic book style to it, because that's part of what I do. And I wanted to work on a comic book for years. I spent years and years and years working on this comic book idea. I never got it anywhere. It's still apparent in my work, and I'm fine with that, but it's one of those, do you embrace that label or do you try to go away from it? And I'm doing a mix. I'm embracing it to a point, but I'm also finding new ways to make it work for me where I don't feel like I'm boxed in. I'm more than one style or one type of subject matter. Even though it's very adamant, I can still go outside of it and do different things. So as an artist, it's always up to you whether or not you're going to go, I am this, or I am this, but I also do that, this, that, and the other. And that will always be something you got to deal with. And one thing I love are good concepts done badly. They are the most amazing, inspiring things to me in the world. Like Super Mario Brothers, the movie. Everyone hates it. I do not know why people hate this movie. It is Blade Runner for kids. I said that for years, and I thought maybe I must be the only person who ever sees that, Blade Runner for kids. And then it came out the people who did all the set designs and character designs for that movie were basically trying to create Blade Runner, but then they had to apply it to Super Mario Brothers. And it was a really awesome looking movie. Plot was terrible, but it looked awesome and inspired me, even to this day. And I can look at artwork and go, wow, that kind of sucks. But I can also go, that kind of sucks. I like the idea. I can do better. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I realize, nope, not going to work. And, you know, that's always part of the process, you know? And I just realized I got my water on the counter back there. I believe Coke will work. But more than anything else, always care about what you do. Just, you can toss it.
Here you go.
Good job.
There.
Thank you. That's a great toss. Tanning it. Just care about what you do. Like, even if you have a client that you're dealing with and you're just like, I don't want to deal with you. And I've had clients like that. Oh God, do I have clients like that? The reality is, I go, you know what? As much as they may not like that, I care about my work. Even if my name's literally not on it, it's still my work, and I have to care about this. And, you know, just care about what you do. Like my general advice sometimes. Oh, what's it like being an artist? I sit on my veranda and I look at the clouds go by. Periodically, I come up with some work, go in the studio for a year, emerge like a beautiful butterfly, show my painting. Hell no. That is not at all what I wanted to do. I love sounding like that guy. So my creative process. So I do a lot of stuff. Don't worry, we're not going to spend an hour on every one. We're going to kind of breathe through these. So my illustration work. We're going to spend a lot of time with that because that's really what I do. So I'm going to at least show a few pieces real quick and show you like some finals. So I've got some in-process stuff on the counter. You can always go to my website as well to see other stuff. But most of it's on DeviantArt because it's a professional website. I'm trying to get other clients and I can't unfortunately show my fun stuff there. So this is a piece whose name I cannot pronounce. The other one's called Angry, Young, and Bored. Oh, this was a fun piece. So I did that just for myself, but then we were talking about having a Halloween party for Mag, and well, unfortunately that fell through, but I had a lot of fun creating this piece. I believe that is Countess Lilith, and this is her Satanic Majesty, which has way more detail work than I can fathom at the moment. But again, these are just showing you kind of what I do at the end. Like this is digital process stuff, and there's Punk Rock Girl, Warrior Azeroth, like, you know, just really fun pieces. Because one thing I do like to do is just fun contours, look at stuff like that. This is my Sitar Babe because I'm terrible at naming things. My Wednesday 13 gig poster, I did that just for fun real quick. And Wednesday 13 loved it and I went up getting to work with them, which is great. And you know, it's not all pinups, it's also other things like snake skull skeletons coming out from beyond everywhere, trying to do horrible things.
Looks like a heart.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I thought it was Valentine.
It's all good. No, I had a lot of fun with this.
Valentine, yeah.
Be mine. And some more other pieces, like this is just me playing around with pop art and stuff I normally do. So it's Mickey Vic, as I like to call him, or Vicky Mouse. So Vic from Megadeth as Mickey Mouse. That was just me really stressed out because of a giant decision I was trying to make in my life. So,
greeting cards.
the process.
That would be an awesome line of greeting card.
Sorry, I broke your toilet. So this is the actual process, or as I like to call it, the process. So one thing, so how do I actually create any of these works? Like, how do I actually get started? So what I'll do is I'll go, hey, I've got this idea. Let me do a few quick thumbnails and see what I think. And this was the initial one. It's kind of hard to see it back there. I do apologize for that, but it was like, I kind of like this pose a little bit, but I don't think it works. And then I went back and tried something else that I liked. So I had this arm raised a little bit, refined a little bit more detail, and said, okay, I think this is going to work.
Larry, are those as big as these, or those are a lot smaller?
These are a lot smaller. So my thumbnails are basically the size of maybe my hand at the most, or a few fingers. I mean, that's why they're called thumbnails. They're pretty small and they're just rough ideas. Exactly, rough concepts. So at that point, I'll go back and go, all right, let's do some initial pencil work. And I hated it. Normally, so real quick, normally I do a piece in a day. It's a few hours. It's like, all right, I got this idea. Let me do the pencils. Awesome. Let me ink this. Done. Scan it. Ain't do anything else. And boom, 5 hours. That was great. Now it takes a little bit longer, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm getting older or if I'm getting more particular about my work. It could be both. But I started working on this piece, and I said something's not working. I couldn't figure out what on earth it was. Driving me mad. Like, no. Why isn't? Spend so much time on this face. Why is it not? Oh, it's the arm. So basically, yeah, the final nail. This was her right arm. It just did not make any sense, and yeah, her boobs were really weird. It's like, no, they don't work like that. So I went back and redid it. Messed around with the arm a lot, and sometimes I'll actually trace my original bad piece and keep the good stuff. I actually redid this all from scratch. Like, no, I'm redoing this entire thing. And it worked. So I had a pose that I liked. Everything made sense. Everything flowed. And it's hard to see back there, but I actually write a lot of stuff in English first. And you'll notice there are weird letters on a lot of these pieces. That's actually Indican, which I can't describe at all. It's basically an ancient or made up, I'm not even sure anymore, language. And I'm pretty sure someone here is going to correct me very soon. I can see it. Nope, good. All right. So it's an ancient language, so I'll translate things into that to give it more of a cult look and feel. But I do have some slight understanding of it. I just am bad at pronouncing it sometimes. This is unfortunately one of those signs I'm talking about. Anyway, so I'll write in English first. I'll remember what on earth it was that I wrote. So around her, it actually says, watch The Simpsons every Sunday at 8 p.m. 7 Central, only in hell. It says wisdom on her right sleeve or our left, and on her left or our right is strength. So there's actually a lot of meaning in everything you see. Like there's a third eye for wisdom, another thing about wisdom, and then strength, and strength coming from the left but also to the right, wisdom coming from the right but also from the left-hand path. There's a lot of stuff going on in any of these pieces, and I like it. I like making it look simple, but it's not. There's also the alchemy symbol for sulfur, aka the modern day satanic cross, a bunch of little other icons, but this is the place. I believe that is Baal right there. I believe that is Azeroth, and they both signify other different occult things. But more importantly, I ink. And let's see. That was not it. I cannot get this going. There we go. Hi, finger. And this is me inking. Not this piece, but another piece. But to give you an idea, so I don't ink on my pencils anymore. I got really tired of losing all the amazing pencil work I did. So I got a crafting table and put a lamp behind it so I could ink everything. So I'm basically tracing, to use a Chasing Amy reference. I'm a tracer at this point, and put in the big blacks and everything else.
So in other words, you have the pencil drawing, but you also have the ink tracing.
Exactly.
So you've got two pieces of artwork from it. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's basically a light box, right? Like a light comes in.
Exactly. So I started using a light box technique, I would probably say 9-10 years ago. It's been a while. I didn't realize how long I actually have been using it. There's a few pieces in this portfolio book, like my In Flames piece, one of Executioner for Obituary, that's the second piece in there. Those were done back when I was still inking my pencils, and I just got tired of erasing all my amazing pencil work. So I started using a light box technique, and I said, oh God, I feel like a sellout, and no, it's great, do it. And here's the final inks. So as you can see, everything's been translated very meticulously, and making sure there's space and everything. So I like to use a brush pen now. I used to use a small, medium, and a fine, and then a brush, and they're all by Faber-Castell brush pens. But I started using only a brush to see if I could really get it, because I was terrible with brush inking as a kid. And using a brush pen is really a lot nicer. I'm getting better at it. It's not perfect, but I'm getting a lot better at it. Sometimes I'll go in with the small one. And I'll mention one more thing too about this.
Have you used the pen tilt?
I have not. I learned about it last night. So Pintails are these awesome ink pens where you can actually put an ink refill cartridge so you don't have to just keep throwing out your pen.
Buy them.
Exactly.
They're real hair. It's not felt tip.
Oh.
They're fantastic.
Oh my god, I can't wait to get one. I saw one last night. I was doing jerks over at Tattooed Moms, and I met an artist who actually he told me about those. I was like, that's awesome, I'm going to get one. I am now just going to get one.
Change everything for you.
Oh my god.
Mikkel will give you nice discounts too.
Nice. Alright, because it's in the Amazon link, so that's even better. So, one thing I don't tend to talk about a lot is how I do all this lettering. I have a separate pen for it, and that's what I'm going to divulge right now. I have a separate pen for symbols, and any religious symbols, I use a different pen entirely, because I just do that.
It's part of your ritual.
Actually, yes, that's what, but I don't talk about those in public, because that's not what you do.
It's personal.
Well, this is also a very personal talk. That's because like one level below to what I'm able to do today. And yeah, here's a close up of all the inks. And I kind of get mad because these look better than my actual ink sometimes. And at that point, I scan it into my computer. I have an A3 flat-bed Mesquite scanner. I don't even think they make them anymore, actually, because everyone does everything so digital. No, I do everything by hand first, and then I scan that puppy in. I will do that until my scanner dies, and then I scream.
So you add the color to the digital file?
Yes. So at this point, it's in Photoshop. I don't really use Illustrator. I've gotten better at using Illustrator. I just do not want to use it for coloring my pieces, even though I really should because of how flat they tend to be. But at this point, I'll just lay on all the flats. And for this one, I decided to do uplighting for it to give it more of a sinister look. So there's a lot of shadows, and that's on a different layer. It's a multiply, and I think I'm alternating between just using a simple gray and coloring in it and using the actual color. There's no one way I'm doing it. I'm just kind of messing around, seeing what works. I think this one was just gray. And then I put it all together, and boom. So I also thicken up the stroke around the entire piece because I always just wind up doing that digitally. I can't help it. I've tried. It just makes more sense for me to do it digitally. So here's the final full color piece, and there are stickers available in the gift shop. But eventually I plan on making this as a black and white t-shirt too, so that would be great. But that's basically a soup to nut process of how I do my illustration work. And obviously, like I said, it's on the counter too, so you can take a look too. And I will definitely answer all your questions about that after I'm done the initial giant part. Now, design work. Yeah. So, design work is very fun and very filling and very interesting. Sometimes you go, wow, Anvil's coming to town. I have a great idea. Let me do this Shepard Fairey inspired piece with heavy heavy bits about Art Nouveau, neoclassical, and Art Deco styles. Like, oh my god, I can't wait to do this. And other times, you're just messing around and mess around with someone else. So that one was actually done a little after he announced he was running for office. And I looked at his merch and was like, oh god, that's terrible. That's just poorly done. That's just bad design. So I said, let me do something cheesy, but not that cheesy. And if he uses it, I can sue. He never used it. I actually have had people come up to me, ask if they can use it to sell, and I've turned them down. And at this point, I thought about giving them the rights and then asking for X amount and then donating to charity. I can't even bring myself to do that. It's just, no. And I kind of want to burn that piece, but it's a digital file. But you know what? I believe even if you mess up and it's public, you might as well just go with it. Like, I did that. I am not thrilled. I can't wait before this is over. This was done in college. I did this in 2005 because I wanted to do a parody of the Parental Advisory sticker. And I just said, no, this is too lame. This is way too cheesy. I'm never putting that out. 2007, I'm sitting around like, I've got this file. Let me just post it, see what people think. That thing has been stolen more times than I can count. Because I put out like a 6400 wide pixel version, which was, yeah, without a watermark. Watermark, if you do large graphics, watermark them if they can be easily traced. Just do that. I learned that one the hard way.
That's the same thing on the checks, where they, is that what they do?
Oh yeah, so you can do a digital watermark.
Okay.
If you can, do it. I don't like watermarking my pieces, but this is one of those times I wish I did. And it's been used by InfoWars because, of course, Alex Jones freaking tentacles got into it. The funniest one I'll mention is it was being sold as button. Like people, some group actually printed them out as little 1-inch buttons. I'm like, no, cease and desist. And like, whoa, we got a Creative Commons license on. I was like, yes, but you can't make money off it. It's Creative Commons. You're able to use it digitally unless I say otherwise, and no, you can't use it. Well, too bad, man, we're gonna use it. It was Mousetrap in New Jersey, which is a white supremacist group. And I said, buddy, you might not want to use that image. And eventually, I think they found out who created it, and it was taken down. So if Mousetrap, you guys are still using that, hi there. All right, so really kind of going along here, Lamb of God, this was a really fun piece. I'm showing some illustration and design work now to show how the two intermingle. So, oh God, that's a story. I won't go into it now because we might not have enough time. Just look up Lamb of God, Philadelphia, and I'll have the entire explanation. But this is illustration. The guns were added, the shotguns were added digitally along with this crown of bullets. Those are actually just photoshopped real quick. Sunray was clip art, actual Lamb of God logo. I met the band, they loved it, and I actually gave them a copy of it too. But I got a signed copy by the entire band and a free pass for the show. So I got paid for the work. Yes! Best part was being in the pit, having a good time. These two guys were like, yeah, I think, are you really into them? I'm like, yeah, they gave me a freaking pass. Anyway. Gohor, great band. I made them a copy of this poster for them. It's kind of inspired by their work. A little bit more by Behemoth than Gohor, and that's only for your metal nerds. I'm not really going to go into that right now. But it was a really fun piece, and it was actually a take on something else I was working on. And same thing with a lot of symbols here. That's the signal Lucifer. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on who that was, but that's actually Gohor's little thing that they have for the band. So I decided to just incorporate that in here too. And this is a big Art Nouveau nod. And I wasn't really sure what to do, and I just went with it, and it was a lot of fun. In fact, I've done a lot more Art Nouveau style designs because of it. This is the first thing I ever did for MAG, the Swerve. I actually had, I drew that microphone just for them, for us, I don't know what the proper word is. Yeah, there you go. I had a lot of fun. Oh, I even drew that squirrel back there. No, that was clip art. But for fun, I also did something for the Umbrella Revolution over in Hong Kong. They loved it. Or someone did over there, that was great. I didn't use a rich black because I thought it was too much, so I went for a lighter one in this one. And real quick, yeah, it says it on the screen, I'm still going to read it to you. This is a story of how I created my favorite design for Occupy Philadelphia. Now, it's lost time, but the image you see was sent to me at some point. Now, that, or I saw it on Twitter, I have no idea anymore. But the concept was cool, and inspired me to do something more with it, and that's why I said good ideas, good concepts with bad execution. I love them because I can do more with that, and I did. That's what I came up with. Now, I didn't like it. I had a ton of free clip art I used for it, like the Fist, Liberty Bell, the Fifth Skyline, but something was missing. I wasn't sure what, but it didn't seem to incorporate all the ideas of Occupy was to me. I shared it with the art committee. We all dug it, but came to the same conclusion, so back to the design board I went. Sometimes it just doesn't click, you know, like something's missing, and you gotta go with that. And no, it's still not there. Now it's like I had more info to convey what was going on, but I still wasn't happy with it. And it came down to colors. Like, it felt way too communist to me and echoed Russian propaganda art from the 1930s. It was an inspiration, but it wasn't what I wanted. Like, that wasn't occupying me. It was something else. It was more about reforming the system and fixing it rather than, all right, let's start over. At least it was to me. I'm going to be honest. And no. I didn't like the black face against the red sky. I was like, no, it doesn't feel like it's for everyone. It feels...
It's very Black Panther.
Yeah, I was like, no. It's a cool look, but no. So, yeah. You're like, maybe I do a sunburst, maybe if I change the colors, maybe I do... No. Kill it with fire, just kill it with fire. I was trying way too hard. I just kept pushing it. I was like, no. And that, oh God, no. And then we got evicted. Occupy was getting evicted, and I mean, I had that other design that you saw. But I still, they were getting evicted, and they were like, we need something for this. And I was like, I have an idea. And I went back to my files, and I came up with this.
I like that.
And that one stuck. It was the perfect timing for it. It wasn't Occupy itself. It was like, no, we're getting evicted. You cannot evict us. You can't evict an idea. And I think that was, the words came from someone else, and I just incorporated them because I was like, that's perfect. That's just perfect. Sometimes something's going to click immediately, and sometimes it's going to have to wait. That's the design process. I don't really tend to do thumbnails for my design work. I just don't. I've always had to work really fast digitally, so I'm like, okay, this works, that doesn't work, let me try this, let me do that. I mean, you've seen how that normally happens. Or normally it's just sitting at Photoshop and messing around for an hour, and who really wants to see that unless it's been screen captured? It's not. So web design, I just have the slide, but I can't really show a lot of examples because it's just websites. And some of them are down, some of them are still up, and pulling up like 20 graphics. Oh, here's basically my web design process. Okay, if it's for a client, they have an idea, I tell them, give me a few examples of what you're looking for and what the overall point of the site is. They'll give me that, and I'll go from there. And that's about it. I'll do some more research, we'll work together, and then I'll sit down, I'll do initial comps, and then I'll sit down and code the entire thing soup to nuts. But it's really hard to describe, and it's very, very difficult to display. And for a web design class, I will gladly do that. Unfortunately, that is not today. But photography, well, I don't really have a process. I just like going out with a camera and seeing what happens. That's just how I am. Sometimes I'll plan out an entire shoot, sometimes I won't. And this is just a couple examples. So I had a model, her name's Nike, and she's amazing. So this one was over at my house. I put up a white screen, went back, did a lot of post-processing work to make sure there weren't any tilts or anything. This one was taken at well, it's been over, I can't be prosecuted for saying this now. Abandoned warehouse, North Philadelphia train station. This was their idea, and this is the best angle I got. This is my favorite shot from the entire photo shoot, too. Worst thing was I had to leave them in an abandoned warehouse for a little bit so I could get batteries for a camera. That was fun. And then there's these shots. That's also Nike. We're in Worcester Woods, right by Worcester train station. And I got this shot, and it was so much fun. My favorite one because of how it leads your eyes to her, and how you're just kind of motivated by this giant black figure in this otherwise gray area. 2006, Baltimore Soundstage, Overkill was playing. I got this photo, front row, great time, love that shot. Perfect timing. And Nike's a lot. It's just I work with her a lot. This was used. I put this on my page. I tagged Nerf. Nerf loved it. They called it their photo of the week. That was fun. And that's 19 niche. And we had this goth photo shoot by the old shampoo club shampoo around 8th and Race. So the idea is what works, what's good composition. Rule of thirds, of course, are in play here, as you can see. Sometimes center works. But overall, illustration matters. It matters to the world because the idea is You're conveying a concept. You're conveying an idea to people. You're illustrating how it works. Pie charts work because they're illustrating how exactly money is being used. Websites work. I mean, book illustrations show how something is described with words. Like, illustration really, really matters. And, oh my God, no, sorry, you did not see that. Designers are very important. Not as, but design is very important. It's how we, we basically rule the world. So what we do as designers is our job is to make sure that you know what's going on and we're conveying that information. Just like illustrators, that's our job. We're conveying how things work. And we are basically running the planet. Because if you don't have good design work, bad things happen. Even good people can make good decisions, can make bad ones if you don't present the information correctly. Because that's really important. And then there's my inspiration. You know, the lifeblood of an artist, that and money, of course. I'm not going to torture you by making you watch the opening to Aeon Flux. Maybe I will. So imagine me being 8 years old watching this. And this is by Peter Chung, who is one of my favorite animators and artists. And it's just weird. And you can probably see how it influences my work. I haven't watched this in years. It's just dynamic. It's fun. I have the audio off. The little bits of detail in everything just blew my mind. And how the things are composed. And how, even little things like the eye. Yeah. And it just blew my mind that someone could do that. I said, I want to do that. And I still want to do that. Even though if I don't know how. But, you know, I was influenced by cartoons, a lot of design work, really graphic stuff. This is Sam Keith from Max, and once again, Dunkman. These are by Brute for KMFDM. And then there's just my inspiration file. And real quick, if you're an artist, I recommend having a file called Inspiration. It's an old piece of advice I saw from a magazine basically saying, literally take a file and put, you know, if you find something in a magazine you like, just put it in this file called Inspiration. I have a Dropbox file called Inspiration that I can get at any time on my phone, laptop, anywhere else. So like, maybe I like this, maybe I don't. But this is just a few things that I'm inspired by, like Pusshead, 90s design work, gate posters, Frank Miller's black and white design work, Art Nouveau and collage stuff, like in social commentary. Like, I just want to give a quick idea of stuff that inspired me in design work, like the way the illustration works, and how it leads your eye. For me, it's like, what can inspire me? What can teach me something more about my own work or what I really want to do on a piece? And here you can get a really good idea of everything, like the minimal design work, the contrast. Oh my God, what's her name? Barbara, her last name escapes me right. Sorry?
Kruger.
Barbara Kruger, oh my God. When I learned about her work, it just blew my mind. It's just text. Text is the most powerful thing in the world. Like, as a design element, and I was blown away by how it could be used. And I love it, and I've been doing more and more of that in my work. And just design, like, this is for Hot Wheels. Like, someone did this for Hot Wheels. What? And yeah, let's talk about one more thing that kind of sucks, which is creative blocks and depression. I went a year without drawing anything. This was 2007, the year I was running for office. And it wasn't like I was depressed while running, it was more like I just did not want to draw for a while. And it sucked because, like, why am I not doing this other thing I love doing while I'm doing this? And there are periods where you're going to do that. You're going to hit that wall. There's no single answer for how to get through it, and I'm not going to even try to tell you. I'm not going to say, look at your inspiration or go for a walk. There's no magic bullet. It's going to happen, and it's going to get over in time. But the worst is when you're feeling really creative and you're depressed. I am going through a little bit of that right this second, which is awesome. I've got a piece I've been working on. I'm really excited about it, but it's hard to go downstairs to my desk and actually finish it. It's like, it's close, I'm not happy with it. Maybe I can do it now. No. And you don't power through that. You just let it sit. You have to sometimes, or maybe you can power through it. I got a client I gotta do something for, and they can't wait for me to not be depressed. They gotta wait for me to finish the work by my deadline. And I can do that because I'm at a point where I can do that, but otherwise it would be really, really hard. And I might even give them their money back, which I've done a few times. This is not one of those times. I'm halfway through it, I can get through it. But the idea is, sometimes you can power through it, sometimes you can't. And maybe, sometimes it can actually fuel you. Maybe hitting creative block means you're going to draw something you've drawn for the billionth time. But you might find a different way of doing it. I don't have it up here, but I have, you know what? Excuse me one second, I'm going to bring this out. This illustrates it better than I can ever describe it. I was going to save this for later. So, I draw skulls a lot. And one day, I was inspired. I saw Nosco. And Nosco is a local artist who explodes things. Like, that's interesting. And I started messing around with the idea. And there's a few, the first one I ever did is actually in that book over there. It's like, that's cool. And then I started doing it more and more until I came up with this. And it was a combination of everything I was doing up to that point. Like devil stuff and skulls and puzzle-inspired stuff. But I like the idea of the exploding skull and labeling it. And this is me after hitting a really bad creative block coming up with this. And we're going to talk about this piece later, but I want to at least show it right now because sometimes that'll happen. Maybe you'll get more inspired by something you're stuck on. You just never know. Technology's impacted my process. So very, very, very briefly, I'm live streaming this. I would never do this before. I live stream inking a piece. And it's a catch-22. You want to do it because you want people who've never seen your work before to look at it and be really involved. And who's the guy who does Bloom County? Thank you. He was very reclusive for years. Like, you never saw him. He never did conventions. He never really went out. And then he got on Facebook and said, you know what, I'm bringing back my comic strip. And he posts like every day and he shows other stuff. And he stopped being like secluded. And now artists aren't as secluded as we used to be. Which is kind of nice. I'm a little conflicted. I'm not sure how I feel about it just yet, but I feel like it's getting better. And the only thing I don't like when I do inking live stream is sometimes it feels like I'm performing rather than creating. And it took me a while, but I got to the point on that Mars piece where I said, oh, there's a camera there, who cares? I'm inking. It's hard to get to that point sometimes because sometimes I'm a natural showman who likes to do things like this. And I guess got Instagram, and that's the other thing that sucks about technology. You get really bad instant gratification sometimes. And Instagram, I get notifications for everything, like, oh my god, I got another like, oh my god, I got another like, oh my god, I don't even know these people. And it's really addictive. And that's bad to a point. So I am actually going to turn off my notifications for Instagram because, no, I don't, it's too tempting to work on something or create something just for likes. So it's been good because more people like your work, but the downside is now you got to perform more. You got to find that medium. Oh God, I hate this part. I hate this part more than anything else. I am not exaggerating. I am dreading this. I've been dreading this for a while. It sucks! I am not a fucking black artist. I am an artist. I cannot stress that enough. I do not post my photo on my website. I do not tell people or introduce myself that way. I will turn down opportunities to show my work if I'm ever labeled as just that. I am an artist. That's all any artist wants to be. They just want to be an artist. No one wants to be handicapped by one way or another, either as a benefit or a detriment. What matters more than anything else is the work. Do you like the work? Is the work powerful? Does it inspire you? Does it make you feel something? Yes? Awesome! That part doesn't exactly matter. It's kind of neat, but not, it's like, it can be the cherry on top or it can be the death nail for some people. And it sucks. Like, oh God. You can hear my voice. I do not like talking about this. I brought it up because it's part of, well, obviously I can't avoid it. You know, it's just kind of part of it. So, I remember, I'll tell you this real quick. So I almost got scanned by someone saying they were with W Magazine. I was really excited. It's like, oh my God, W Magazine wants to hire me as a photographer. I'm in published by Rolling Stone. I'm in a few other places. It makes perfect sense. It was a giant scam. But I was talking to someone, and I told them, you know, if it turned, I was wondering how they found out my work. Like, how they found my work, because I haven't really done anything for a while. And I said, you know, if they're just picking me as a minority hire, I'm not doing it. And my friend asked me, wait, you would turn down the work because you're black? Like, because they hired you because you're black? And I said, yeah, I would. Why? Well, same reason you wouldn't want to be hired because you're a straight white dude. You don't want to be hired because of their criteria. You want to be hired because you're damn good at what you do. The flip side is something I've been realizing a lot lately, which is it's also important for people to know who's behind it sometimes. My cousin, who is in California and works on as an animator, he's black. And he's an amazing artist. He's worked on a lot of great pieces. A lot of people don't know him. Maybe if they saw him, they go, hey, maybe I can be an animator. And if I didn't have my cousin, would I be an artist now? Would I even said, maybe I can do that? I don't know. And it sucks sometimes. It's this thing, because I always want people to care about my work because I'm freaking Larry. But maybe that's a little important, and that's something we all have to deal with in one way or another. Maybe so people, I told you before, people are going to categorize you. They're going to say you're this, that, or the other. It's up to you and no one else whether or not that's going to define you as an artist. All right. Let me loosen up a little bit here. This is the fun part. What does art mean to me? Art is about freedom, creativity, and joy. Yes! Freedom, creativity, and joy. It doesn't mean that you're just doing something because you're doing it. It's because you're happy. Or maybe because you're depressed. Or maybe you feel a certain way. But it's about the fact that you're creating something. No one ever has to see your work. If you're working on something, you're like, wow, this is really blue. I don't want to show it to anyone. You don't have to show it to anyone. But you made it. I've got the blue file. We all have that blue file. And it actually helped me loosen up a little bit and not feel like really super insecure about my work. Like, well, I want to draw this, but there's no way I can ever show this. But then I said, well, I can use this element in this piece and do that. Like, wow, that's great. It's a release. Art is always about being a release, about being this fun thing that you do that makes you happy and maybe other people you've never met before. There are people in this room I've never met before who apparently like my work enough to go, okay, I'll go see what this guy's about. And that's awesome. But you don't give people what they want. You never give people what they want. You give them what they need. I'll give you two great music examples. One is Metallica and one is Slayer. And they both had different results. Metallica's entire thing was, we create art for ourselves, and if you like it, that's awesome, because we care about our fans, but at the end of the day, we gotta like it first. And then they created, after creating so many amazing albums, they came up with Load and Reload, and that's not that great, but it was something, but it made them happy, and I'm happy for them. Slayer went the opposite route. They said, we are Slayer, we're gonna do our thing, that's what we're gonna do, and they did a little bit for themselves, and the fans hated them for it because they were trying to do too much for them, so every album sounds the same. So that's your choice. Either your work is always going to be one certain thing because that's what your fans want, or it's going to be a little different because that's what you want, and the fans are there for the ride. And that's really up to you. But I honestly believe you do what they need, not what they want. And now we get to the fun part. Woohoo! Did anyone ever see Metal, A Headbanger's Journey? No? Someone asked me what was your main inspiration. Go ahead, someone asked.
What's your main inspiration?
Satan. No one's going to get that reference in this room.
It's from...
It's from the movie Metal, A Headbanger's Journey. Gorgoroth, the lead singer, was asked that question, he answered that. So, a lot of people are freaked out when I tell them what my religion is, and I am a Satanist. I am out of the closet, I am a Satanist, and I'm damn proud of it. What does that mean? To a lot of people, it means different things. But for me, it's an intensely personal thing. It's hard for me to describe. Do I believe there's a little one out there? Kind of. I don't really know. There's a Leviathan thought process of you are your own God because man creates so many gods, therefore you are your own God. Not quite there for me, not really my thing. Do I believe that we are inherently cells with light in some of our brain cells that can fuse together and create amazing things? Do I believe that there's some sort of other thing out there? Do I believe that there's darkness and light and that some people are drawn to different energies than others? Hell yeah. Do I believe there are literal demons out there? I'm not really sure. Do I believe that a demon is just a ball of energy or a different way of describing something because we can't really comprehend it? Yeah, pretty much. That's where I am. It's not for everyone, and I never besmirch anyone for it. And when I started doing like my more demonic and Satanist things, yeah, they were cliche and red crosses and all that fun stuff. But I realized my art can't be about that, because that's not what I'm about. I'm not about tearing other people down. It's about expressing what I think and what I feel and how I believe. So my work became more about praising what I cared about and drawing more about what I cared about. It's not about tearing anything else down. It's about what I think is cool and what I believe in me. And you know what? I thought this was going to go on a lot longer, but that's really what it is. So what does it mean to be a Satanist to me? It means that I'm drawn to more darker things, but I'm also a really nice person. It means that's just how I am. It's like I love. It's like liking horror movies, but you volunteer at the little dog shelter. You know, it's just some people are like that. And as long as they're not going around hurting the puppies, I think they're fine. You can love horror movies and still be a good person, just like you can be a Satanist and still be really awesome to people. And people are shocked when I tell them that because I'm actually not horrible all the time. I'm a jerk. I can be a jerk. I will not deny that. I have been a jerk. I hate being a jerk unless it helps other people. But that's another thing. Like, the other part of this is realizing that I'm a jerk. I accept the fact that I can be a jerk. I'm trying to be better than that. But I can use that power to help people who really need it. Like, wow, that person's being really loud. I guess I'll say something because other people won't. That's being a jerk in a good way. And that influences my work because it's like, what more can I do with this? And I know I'm running low on time. I'm just realizing that in the back of my head. So when it comes to the occult aspect, I'm really intrigued. Like, what is demonology, tarot cards, and all that other stuff? And I always research where something came from. Like, okay, where did this language come from? Where did this spell come from? Where did this name come from? And finding that, I was like, wow, that kind of sucks that it may have been made up. But it doesn't relinquish its power as much. It's like, that's just kind of neat. But you can do more with it. Wall of text. I have a larger version of this, and I'll bring that out soon. But basically, this is really, really religious for me. So the pattern behind her head is actually a recreation of the pattern used for the magnets that was used in the Illustrated Goetia. Goetia being like a book of demons. The Magnus was the head of the demons. Not Satan or Lucifer, but for this context, Satan or Lucifer. Either one works for this. And it was a really cool pattern, so I recreated that digitally to put it behind her head. And then Merkosha, I cannot pronounce it properly, which I'm kind of happy about. That's the one thing about my faith. I like not pronouncing the names properly in public because it means I can not summon it. So Merkosha is from demonology and is considered a marquee of hell. He's strong fire and gives true answers to all questions. Is very faithful to the magician and following his commands. So the idea was, what about his wife? Well, I think it would be very similar, and she's adorned with the symbol of sulfur on her head, along with the signal of Lucifer, the satanic cross. Boom, boom. Is actually an alchemy symbol for sulfur, and the icon around her neck is the alchemy symbol for iron, which is that little thing right there. Third eye symbolizes inside in this case. And the headdress itself is a mix of Western American and Asian styles and ornamentation. You're probably going, wow, that's cultural appropriation. No, I understood this stuff and really researched it. And that brings us to nothing, because I got my slides mixed up. But in the end, art should be dangerous, engaging, and controversial. Otherwise, I don't get the point. I really should. It goes back to the entire thing of people don't care about your work. You gotta give them a reason to care about your work. It's gotta be engaging, and maybe offensive or provocative, which is my work. It's either offensive or provocative. Now, students, listen up. What does it mean to be offensive? Offensive is an adjective causing displeasure or resentment, as defined by, of course, Merriam-Webster. Resentment or displeasure. But what does it mean to be provocative? It means serving or tending to provoke, excite, or stimulate. Okay, that sounds really similar. So what do I think it means? Provocative to me means it's about soliciting a response to make someone think and try to provoke a response. That's what I think it is. It means maybe it's something you're not going to be very comfortable with, but you're going to think for more than a moment. You're not just going to pass it by and go about your day. You're going to go, what the hell's that? Like this shirt, you're probably going, what the hell is that? You're going to spend a little bit looking at it. And therefore, I've done my job. What does it mean to be offensive? Well, it means not only trying to get a response, but trying to create a negative response. What does that mean? Why? So why would someone be offensive then? Like if you're trying to provoke a response, a negative one, why on earth would you do that? There are two ways you can do that. If you're trying to intentionally be offensive, you could be like Milo, whatever the hell his name is. I'm not even pronouncing his last name. It's not worth the time. Milo's a jerk. Like, he's an offensive jerk. His thing is, well, I'm trying to shock the liberals into thinking differently. Yeah, that's a no, because unfortunately you're so offensive and so rude and corrosive, no one's going to listen to you. Marilyn Manson's offensive to people, but he at least can get people to listen to him. Marilyn Manson's entire thing is, this system makes no sense. Maybe this religion doesn't make sense. Maybe you should try something else. The people who are super religious, he knows they'll never listen to him. So he's aiming for people in the middle. Milo's thing is he's aiming for one group of people on the far end. Me and Manson, we're like, we know we can get everyone else in the middle. Let's see where we can go. And that's the thing. So why provoke? Why on earth will you do it? Because you're trying to make people bleeding think. Why on earth would you just stand around all day creating stuff that's like, oh, it's a flower? No, it's gotta be a reason. And I gotta say, Trump is the best. He is the best. He is the best. He is the best at making everyone actually consider what the hell's going on. He is offensive and provocative at the same time. And he has made everyone in this room think a little bit more about what they're doing on a daily basis. You've learned about what a city council rep does. You've learned what maybe even a ward leader does, or a committee person of all people. You got to talk to your congressperson, your senator, because of this jerk. He's offensive. And that can be the plus side of being offensive. It can make people do something that they wouldn't do otherwise. In his case, he's making people do things he won't like, but he is provoking a response. He's being offensive, and he's getting a response. He's making people change the way they live and act. That's important if it makes you do things for the better. And he's not intending to, but he is making people for the better. The guy's still a jerk. He's still an offensive, provocative A-word, but it works. And that's why people can be offensive and why you need to be offensive in your work. If you're like, this doesn't make sense, sometimes you gotta shock people into realizing it. It's hard. And I got friends who say, you can't be that offensive, otherwise people aren't going to listen to you, which is why you just provoke people a little bit. There's no easy answer here. It's not like you can be this offensive or this provocative. You got to find the middle road for yourself and find out what works for you and what people actually respond to. You're not giving people what they want, you're giving them what they need. And what they may not need is something super over the line. But cultural appropriation, you know, I started talking about that real quick, about that headdress. You just figure out where something came from. Like 20 years ago, if you threw on an Indian headdress, like that looks really cool, you have no idea where it came from. How are you going to find that out? You go, I want to draw an Indian headdress. Well, spend 5 seconds on Google and figure out where the hell it came from in the first place. Understand what it means, where it comes from. Whenever I use a symbol in my artwork, it's because I researched it and I understand it, or at least I understand it as much as I can. And I may not be able to explain it like a college discourse, but I can at least go, well, it means this, or it symbolizes that. And if I can't remember it, I can at least go to my notes and go, oh, right, it means this. You're not going to be perfect. And real quick, I wanted to do like a bunch of tiki stuff a few years ago, but I didn't want to just do it because I felt like, you know, if it's someone else's god, that's kind of messed up to just kind of do your own thing on it. I looked it up, I understood it. It's Polynesian. There's no real meaning to it. It's the only real there is. I'm sorry, that was offensive to me. I didn't mean to do that. What I do mean to say is there's a meaning, but it's not set in stone. It's really open to interpretation. The core is you're trying to create these totems that scare evil spirits away. That's really all it comes down to, which is nice. So you can be more free about what you're going to do, which is why people aren't mad when they see tiki style things, because you're able to do that. But politics and pop culture in my work is super important, because more than anything, it's about understanding the world around you, not just what happens, how you feel, but everything around you, because you have to pay attention to this stuff. In a democracy, you have to know what's going on in politics. You gotta know what's going on in office. Maybe a cartoon's not gonna make a lot of sense to you, or maybe an icon won't be right there, but the idea is to kind of get people to think about something, or maybe put it in a different light. And our pop culture is always changing. Britney Spears is now Lady Gaga, who is now Ariana Grande. Maybe you make fun of them, or maybe you use it to do something else. The only thing about pop culture, like that Maud piece, maybe people aren't going to get that in 20 years. It's about making sure that even if you do it, don't use it as a shortcut. Find a way to incorporate it so it's, even if people don't get the reference, it still looks really neat. And it's something that people can go, wow, I like that, even if I don't fully understand it. Final thoughts. Are we all broken down now? Are we all tired and thinking to ourselves, maybe we shouldn't be artists, but maybe we should?
I'm sweating, Larry.
You should be.
I'm just sweating back here.
You'll never know unless you fucking ask. Remember that. That thing I did for Rolling Stone, those two pieces that were used by other people, sometimes I ask, sometimes I don't. I've gone out to potential clients and go, hey, do you mind if I do work for you? And they've said yes. But you will never know unless you ask. Even if outside the art world, if you're like, wow, that person's being really annoying, maybe they should turn it down. Unless you ask, you will never know. Sometimes you gotta be a little more aggressive than you probably are. As an artist, you gotta be aggressive. You gotta find that new network, that new gallery you might not be able to do. I'm going to ask you about an art show, but I would never know unless I asked her about it. That's how it goes. You don't know unless you ask. Sometimes just making a single mark is a revolutionary act. If you're depressed and you're like, I don't want to do anything, and I've had days like that. I've had weeks where I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I just do not want to deal with this. And I told myself, if I can at least draw an eye, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy. Sometimes making that one mark is all you need. And it doesn't mean everyone has to see it. It doesn't mean you have to broadcast it live. It means you just made a mark. And it feels like you're creating something. Above all else, never surrender. Never give up. Never stop trying to be who and what you are. Never stop being creative. Never stop creating. Never stop drawing, writing, playing the guitar. Anything you do, never surrender on what you want. I've given up, but I've never surrendered. In practice. Always practice. It's not a gift from God, it's practice. It's inspiration, but no, it's practice. It's always practice, no matter what. And self-care is really important too. And that's a more recent concept idea of just, going, maybe I'm not going to do something for a little bit. You got to do your self-care. You got to go, okay, maybe I'm not going to draw today. That's okay. I made the mark. Maybe I'm just going to watch TV for a little bit. It's important to do things that help you relax and be yourself and be with your friends, be with your girlfriend, be with your significant other in some way. Do that stuff. That's really important. And that's something we're learning now, that we can't be 24/7 hardcore workaholics. That's hard to get sometimes. But this will be the best piece of advice I can ever give you. Be careful with advice. I get advice from people, and they get mad when I don't take their advice, and I just tell them the same thing. I'm just asking. That doesn't mean I'm going to take it. When my mom was sick, I got a ton of advice. I'm like, that's cool. No. It doesn't mean people are going to do it. Like, I almost lost my house in 2008 because I had unpaid bills. I was mounted death. I was just freaked out about everything. I was just terrified. And I had people say, sell your guitars. Sell your guitars. You'll keep your house if you sell your guitars. I said, that's a freaking terrible idea. You do that, what happens if this happens again? I'm at my guitar in my house. No, I'm not doing that. So I did something else instead. But the important thing is, you get advice. That doesn't mean you have to follow it. You just have to understand it and be careful with it. Because how someone got that advice or how it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I can tell you a million things. I gave you a ton of advice here. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It means I've given you my opinion about what works for me. Maybe you found something in there that inspires you and go, maybe if I apply that to my life, I can do something. Or maybe you're like, that's all bullshit, and you walk away, I don't really care. But that's the only thing I would say, remember from any of this. Be careful with advice. And now it's time for some art appreciation, or it would be if I didn't go over. Now we got a little bit of time for art appreciation. So I'm going to take out a few pieces real fast so we can actually appreciate it for a moment. This is my most holy piece that you saw earlier. And I at least want to show it to you so you can get a better idea. And it is intense. It's black and white with silver, full color print, mounted. And I have never hung it in my house because it's just too much for me. It overwhelms my room whenever I put it anywhere. And it's very big. So I wanted to at least show that. I'm going to leave it over here so we can look at it later. Oh, even better. Thank you. And because a lot of my work has a ton of detail in it, this one's not as detailed, but there's just a ton of religious symbols in this.
Bring the easel forward.
Oh, I should do that, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Let people see it a little closer.
Oh, oh, thank you so much. There we go. There we go. It's okay. It's okay. So, it's a Baphomet style piece. I had the idea of, instead of drawing the horns like I always did, let me do it with hair. See how that works. And a lot of the iconography is escaping me right now, unfortunately. If I wanted to do feathers, it was just different. The goat skull, Satan, of course. So you know, Lucifer's in a lot of my work these days. Of course, the sulfur cross. And a lot of these are magic symbols. So even the circle, eye and pyramid, these little markings right here, that's an alchemy symbol. I believe that's either an alchemy symbol or it's ceremonial magic. But there's a lot of stuff like that might work. So nothing's ever as simple as it looks. As much as it may look like a pinup girl, there's more to it. And I always make sure that anyone I draw, there's a sense of danger to them. They're not just there to look pretty for you. They're there to make you think and maybe intimidate you a little bit. Like her Satanic Majesty here. Every little thing means something. Snakes, eyes, Belial symbol right there. Why is it on one arm and not the other? Why is the position there? It's just a ton of work. And I wanted to just talk about one thing in particular for this. The horns, the snakes. What I do for these is I'll just draw it on one side real quick. And I won't even draw the final, I'll just rough it out. After I'm happy with it, I'll take a piece of tracing paper and reverse it, and with my light table, just redraw it again. But it's not exactly the same. They're still separate because they're organic. It's gotta be separate. Otherwise, it's gonna suck. This one will be right here because I'm blocking your only exit to the bathroom. Because now we come to the part I know you've been waiting for the most. The most exciting point of it all. Q&A! Any questions? I know you have to be burning with a ton after all that. That's a lot of information to take in.
Larry,
Yes,
why don't you work in color?
I do work in color, but actually, I'm sorry, that was defensive. You're right. I'm couching myself these days. I don't work in color a lot, and it's largely because I don't really know. I've gotten really used to working in black and white as an illustrator, and I really love doing it, and it's gotten harder because of it, so I don't really think of a piece in full color anymore like I used to. And it's not because I'm going colorblind, because I kind of worried maybe I am, but no, it's just my mind's eye, and it's more like, I like this, but maybe I'll add the color later and see how that works.
Well, the ink work is beautiful, by the way. I mean, it's no criticism. I was just curious because so much of that work has so much detail. You wonder how it would look with a certain amount of coloration involved with it.
That's actually a really good point. I'm glad you said that because sometimes that was a consideration. Like a new piece I'm working on, there's so much detail in it, I cannot fathom putting any color in it.
Got you.
And I did a coloring book in part because I had so much detailed work that I wasn't coloring. But I wanted to release it. It just didn't feel right, so I just released it as a coloring book. So sometimes the work is just way too detailed. And that is true. Sometimes it's just way too detailed. But sometimes I'm just not thinking about doing a full color version of the piece.
Awesome.
And something like this, or the Countess loaf I showed earlier, that's more like, okay, I like this, but I like that they're doing accent colors instead of a full blown on colored piece. Yes?
Do you find that you think in black and white more so than color?
I do, especially these days. And it's very interesting. It's one of those, you don't really understand why it's happening or you don't really plan on it. It just happens. And I'm trying to get out of that a little bit. I've had a bunch of full color ideas. One just popped in my head about a more pop art style piece, like using a Mooney figurine, which is a little vinyl figurines in case anyone's not aware of it. And I had ideas for doing that for years, but I just haven't done it. So I think I'm gonna go back to, plus I love using like neon colors that are really hard to replicate. Yes?
So Larry, you're doing the thumbnails, you're doing the pencil, and you're inking by hand, and you showed us a little video of you like inking. I think nowadays on certain like digitizing tablets, you could have a very fine something. Do you ever do your drawings directly on a digitizing tablet when it goes into the computer, or you'll always ink by hand? Not by hand, like without the digital. You're digitizing it after you're.
Right, so it's like 1 out of 80 pieces I'll actually do full digital. The one piece I did the pencils for this first, but that Mikimoto coloring book page I showed you real quick, which would take forever for me, unfortunately, to get to. That had to be full digital. That had to be all the line work because it's a coloring book. I wanted to do that all in Illustrator. And that was my first time doing an entire piece all in Illustrator. Again, I penciled it first, but then I just inked it in Illustrator, which was a new challenge. It's very different. I liked it, but I didn't love it, so I don't think I'm doing it anytime soon. But it's also a learning curve. It's like, okay, I've never really done this before. And sometimes you're more comfortable with something, sometimes you're not. But they also have new ones where you can ink with a traditional pen and can actually put it in the computer. And that is neat, but it also feels like a cheat to a point.
Get over it's new technology.
Yeah, exactly.
When you say appropriation, do you ever think of, well, you're just appreciating other cultures and you know, in fact, you're researching them and everything else, so it's really not an appropriation as much as it is a respect and an appreciation of another culture.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's why I kind of hate the term cultural appropriation. Like, we use for everything, like, oh, well, that person's doing that, therefore they appropriate. Like, no, if they liked it, they like it.
They celebrate it.
Right, but there's a catch. Right, well, there's a catch, and I'm glad you said this because I actually forgot to mention this during my occult part. There's a company called Blackcraft, and they have some really neat stuff. And what they do is they use occult symbology and occult symbolism to sell clothes and to sell it to the mainstream audience. Like, that's pretty neat, but it feels like they don't really appreciate what they're doing. Like, they like it, but they don't get it. Like, oh boy, we'll use this symbol. Like, no, that's kind of religion. What do you like? No. Like, there's a line. It's hard to define, and no one person knows what that line is. And the people behind the Blackcraft probably really know their stuff and really appreciate it. It just doesn't come off. Like Kanye West wearing a Metallica t-shirt. It's like, I'm not feeling it. Like, it's hard. Like I said, it's really hard, but it can also be you really like something, and that's all that really matters. And I think in the end it does. But it also matters how you use it, and that's the hard thing. Like, it's a hard line.
You know, when you were doing the presentation of you were doing the sketches and I immediately saw a Simpson face beginning of it, and I didn't hear you say anything about the Simpsons until well into your presentation. I kept saying, well, is he going to change the face? Because that looks like a Simpson character. Up until you got it down, and then you said it was a Simpson-inspired piece.
Yeah.
So it threw me off when I was watching you go to the steps. So all I could think of Simpson.
Oh my! I'm sorry. You know what? I completely forgot to mention. I was so focused on the process, I forgot to say where the idea came from. So I had this idea from a Simpsons episode. So there was a Halloween special. Walt Flynn. If you know the Simpsons, great. If you don't, I'm sorry. I'm not going to explain everything, but I'm going to explain this part in particular. Walt Flinders was dead in the show. She got killed off. And every once in a while they'll bring her back. And in one episode, for a Halloween special, they brought her back and sees Satan's girlfriend. I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat. I've never thought about that. Like, corrupting a character. And I actually am really into corrupting innocent characters now to see what horrible, maniacal things I can do. And it's really fun because it means taking something people know and love and seeing what else you can do with it. But for me, it's also, you don't just do it, you gotta find a way to make it more permanent. So I said, well, what if I take that evil Maud idea and go beyond? Like, what if I make her an evil Pope? And in fact, that's actually part of a triptych I did of 3 female Simpson characters. So it's Marge Simpson, Helen Lovejoy, and then Maud Flanders, and they're all like evil satanic popes. I'm not going to show the entire triptych today, unfortunately, because now Disney will sue me instead of Fox. Oh, I miss you, Fox. But it was the idea of, doing an evil Maud Flanders and seeing what I can do with that. Or making an evil satanic version of Simpson characters. And it's really fun. So I've been doing it for a little bit. I'm trying to get myself out of it and just do something else, but that's only capture pop culture. It's really, it's just bubblegum. Yes?
Now there's some stickers on this little display here.
Yes.
I'm noticing that they're black background with white inking, like your shirt is like white on black.
Yes, my Philadelphia black metal logo.
Okay. So for a particular image, is there a thought process of like, should it be black on white or white on black, or it's just whatever you think like gives the best image?
That's a great question. When it comes to my black metal logos, I've done a few. This is one of the first ones I ever did. I know it's a long way to get to your point. The very short answer to your question is yes. Sometimes it's, okay, I know I have to invert this, or maybe I won't. But it comes down to, I'm working digitally so I can kind of play around with something a little bit more than I would otherwise. And for black metal logos, they look amazing black on white, but it's more traditional to do them inverse. And it's a conflict. But I started doing black metal logos because I really liked the aesthetic. I thought it was really neat. And I learned more about where it came from, about this one guy whose name escapes me, and I think no one knows. There's this guy who does like 100 of black metal logos, and he's like the grandfather of them. And he just said, I think about the subject matter and I draw what comes to mind, just like anyone else, but it's a logo. So I talked to a bunch of people. I try to get feedback on how to do a Philadelphia one. They're like, make it more about the city, not what you think a black metal logo is supposed to be. So I incorporated City Hall and a little bit of the skyline, which is really hard to see from back here, from even up here. There's the skyline, roots, tree branches, but just getting like an eerie, otherworldly feeling at the same time. And I love messing around with typography, so I did that, and it's really fun. Oh, and the scales from the Philadelphia flag are on here too. So there's like little hints of Philadelphia without being Liberty Bell. I did not want to do that. The Black Lives Matter piece, I also did something where it's it's a tree of life from from African culture. So I put that in the middle of Black Lives Matter logo with chains and fists coming up, because I was like, I want this to be obvious but not blatant. And that's black metal to me. It's like obvious without being blatant. Any other questions or? No?
Do you copyright your drawings?
I am a fool because I have not gone through the National Copyright Office and formally done it like I should. The copyright law states very simply, you put something in a transmissible form, you own that copyright. And in my experience, that's always great when you tell someone that.
Larry, as your attorney, I'll note that.
But no, I unfortunately, no, I haven't sat down and done it. And ideally, for something like this, you would do a body of work all at once, because every other piece is like $35, unless that's gone up in the last 15 years.
I believe it's gone up.
Yes.
And Larry, it is true that one of the reasons that it's white on black is because you prefer wearing black t-shirts. Is that correct?
Guilty as charged.
I knew it.
Black always outsells white.
There's also that.
I want to thank everybody for coming, and we do have to kind of wind down now, so if you could just meet with Larry with any further questions, as we wind down, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You've been great. I've been Larry West. Thank you for coming. And if anyone's interested in any of these frame pieces, they are obviously for sale. Anything in the book, you better make a damn good price.
Do you have any t-shirts for sale?
Yes, I have the Philadelphia Black Metal and the Black Lives Matter shirts are for sale here in the gift shop. There are coloring books and stickers.
And so, so I saw copyright actually on the coloring book.
Yes.
So that is copyrighted?
Again, transmittable form, but it's not registered.
Okay.
There's a difference between registered copyright and copyright. Everything is copywritten, but it's not registered.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Let me get this out of the way.
Oh,
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
You okay, Facebook?
Thank you. Dude, thank you so much for coming.
You live around here?
Yeah.
You ever make it down into the city?
Oh god, yeah. That's how I got all my flyers down there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, stop by my shop.
Okay.
Of course.
Two full-time, myself and another illustrator.
Okay.
She just did a bunch
What's,
of
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
okay.
Okay, alright, then that's someone else I'm thinking of. Dude, I love that thing. I'm sorry, the nun? I freaking love. Oh my god! Yeah, it's in there. Yeah.
Yeah, his work is very solid.
Oh man.
But yeah, stop there. Who's printing your shirts?
Did you check it?
Oh yeah, man. I've been using Jane's fingerprints. Yeah. I've been using Jane's fingerprints down in Florida. Really good turnaround times. They charge me like a
And
little more than $100 but at the same time, the Black Lives Matter ones, people freaking that's including shipping. Yeah.
You'll have to talk about our ideas to
I
get
will.
some more printing.
Dude, what's
That's
your
the problem here.
Right, pleasure meeting you.
That has a little bit more information about check out the site.
Absolutely.
Full print shop. Very traditional.
No, it's all good. Ian? Oh God, I can't wait.
They changed my life.
Good luck. Thanks, Ben. Nice to meet you. What's your name again? Mark. Thank you for coming out.
No problem. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm still here for a second. Dude, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Do you know what I did? What?
I put your little flyer on my wall with a couple pieces of painter's tape. So I won't forget no matter what.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to come out. My friend Ryan's back.
Oh yes.
And then this is my little bit of
Oh nice, man.
Right, but I'd give you one
You need the bird, huh?
Yeah, well, some of them are just like line drawing stuff, you know, but that was like a real drawing with, watercolors.
Oh, nice.
You know?
I'm gonna put this here. We're gonna put it right here.
Ryan, come over for a second.
Wait, what's in here, my man?
Oh, hey, and so, they didn't have any of my side. I think mine was more.
Oh, of the Black Lives Matter? Or the Philadelphia?
This is the Philadelphia.
Oh, my.
I've been looking at that the entire time.
Oh.
Yeah, that was based on like where you answered the question.
I will. Alright, so I'm gonna take kids for the.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Yes,
I know this guy.
I will tell him. Yeah, when they're out, I will tell. Let me turn off this live stream though. It better still be streaming, that's all I'm gonna say. Oh my, it was still running.